Good morning, everyone. I see you. All right, we're going to start off on a high note this Monday. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions. And rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong. Wait and see. Someday we'll find it. The rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Yeah, you sing. Take off the mic. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on a morning star? Somebody thought of that and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. We know it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep? And have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. And Nick, too. Is this the sweet sound that calls a young sailor or pirate? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and you and me. La-dee-da-doo, ba-da-da-da-da-da-dee-da-doo. Good morning, Nick. Good morning, everyone in the audience. Are we ready for the Rainbow Connection? It's Leslie Flowers, Mind Over Matter, with my fabulous co-pilot, Nicole Angai-Galindo. Say hello to everybody, Nick.
Hello. Good morning. Love the song. Perfect accompaniment to my coffee.
Fantastic. Well, I'm kind of at the place in my life that I love singing. I've always loved singing. And so I just decided, well, you know what? I actually get a little bit better every time I practice. So look forward to surprises from Nick and I as we move through the weeks with song. We'll have some surprises for you. So let me begin by welcoming all of you. And Mind Over Matter Mondays is a way that we've been starting our week for quite some time. And I'm really happy to say that Nick has moved into entrepreneurship and is now available in this spot to support me as our dear Paulette recovers from some illnesses, which is going to take a little bit of time. Yes. So she's resting, and you'll notice that she is not on LinkedIn very much at all. So she's getting well. And so, Nick, I'm so glad that you made it. So the first thing that and today we're going to talk about attitude. And I will read the questions. And at 10:30, I would love to have you come up on the stage, and so would Nick. Because I'll tell you now. So it's really about what is attitude? What does it mean? What do you think it means? Were you ever able to change it? Did you ever have a boss that said to you, look, if you don't change your attitude, you're out of here? I can remember my mother saying that. Leslie, change your attitude. Well, I was confused. How do you change your attitude? What is attitude? And what did you do when someone said that or you heard that? What do you think attitude actually is? And we're going to look into that because it's not, it's more than you think. Because this is, remember, mind over matter, conscious mind over reactive, subconscious, non thinking, emotional, reactive, not thinking, mostly based on fear, of which we have 6 main ones. So the idea here is to strengthen our ability to select our thoughts, particularly when we get triggered. No one has ever reached perfection, right? So one of the things that I've discovered when we're doing this work is to be sure to have someone, at least one person, that you trust, that's looking for your greatness and you're looking for theirs to bounce ideas off of. Nick, what do you think about that? We're going to get into the acknowledgments. So what do you think about having at least one person that you can really, really trust, that you don't think they're ahead of you. They are not competitive. They love you and they realize that abundance is available. What are your thoughts on that, Nick? Give us a couple of minutes on that.
So good morning, and for me that is a must. A must. Luckily for me, I feel that I have that in my partner. We might have a lot of differences between us, but as a couple, you partner on a lot of things. Making big decisions about purchases, deciding where to go on vacation, um, deciding even how to prioritize paying off debt, maybe. So, what I love about him is that neither of us feel that it's a male female who needs to earn more, who needs to do more. It's we accept it's never going to be 50-50, but together we'll do 100%. And therefore, I feel that I could approach him pretty much with anything going on. And he is going to tell me his true feelings on the subject, not taking into consideration the fact that I'm his wife. He might take into consideration his delivery because I'm his wife, but he will say what he needs to say. And I think that we all need that person that's willing to tell you, listen, can we observe a minute of silence? Because he has told me that because I talk a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. This is the signal that you're speaking into the microphone, right? Or into the mute. A lot of people say it shouldn't be a spouse. So I think it's extra special because I actually thought you were talking about another gentleman who was a friend of yours until you say, right, Aaron, until you said, and he was your husband. I thought, oh, okay. I'm thinking along. So you actually have a couple of people. You do.
I do, male and female. And the lovely thing about that is the perspective, because in my opinion, a man and a woman cannot bring the same thing to the table just from the fact that they're different genders. So Aaron is the person that I can speak very bluntly with. My husband, of course, I'm going to be somewhat ladylike. So with Aaron, and like,
I got it. So thank you for sharing that. As I have been seeing everybody come into the room, we're so honored that you're here. You're going to love today's topic. And in the comments, look, you can click the 3 dots, view the event details without losing us. You can scroll down to the comments, click most recent. I don't know if it's most recent now because I put it in there a while ago, but just send me a message if you'd like to come up around 10:30. And that's why I read those questions. We want to really take a look into attitude because this is a blanket statement that we have heard all our life. Well, if you would just change your attitude, I can't tell you how many times I heard that. Okay. Okay. What is that? Right? But we just shake our head and we behave, we pretend that we're different, but we really are not different at all, because I don't think we can take action unless we really understand and we get really clear about what it is. So let me just tag here and let me tell you all, oops, hold on, who you are for me. And then Nick can do that as she's speaking as well. Now, I do this few minutes of acknowledgement to engage your heart, to know that this time you will not get back, and that your listening here will open up new thoughts and ideas, particularly if you're willing to be open and listen for something you've already heard that you know is right. So sometimes at different stages in our awareness, different ideas come to us and we realize, oh, I've heard that before. That's good. That's the confirmation that you're aligned. So what you want to avoid doing is when you hear something today saying, well, I already know that. Because when you came into this room, you had a certain level of conscious awareness, emotional intelligence, whatever the buzzwords are now. It's the ability to be objective enough, a 30,000-foot view, and to respond rather than react. But the truth is that our fears are real. They were real when they happened, and we resurrect them whenever we think about it. And when we do that, then it lowers our cellular vibration, which makes us feel lousy. And why this is important is this will be the most important thing that I'll tell you before we get into that particular way of minding over matter, right? Is that you have two internal voices. One represents what we're doing now, your conscious mind, the connection to the universe. We have our intellectual faculties, our ability to strategize, our ability to develop focus, etc. And then it's in a battle for the one conscious thought that any one of us holds at any time, for the reactions from the fears. And the fears are stronger. They're more practiced. So they really are our enemy. Now, thinking is the only thing you can control. And thought is not a place. Mind is not a place. It's an activity in your cells. Your brain is an organ, right? It's the electronic switching station, the radio in your car. And I think about the 1956 Chevy tuck and roll, right? Now, I'm that old, right? And the radio was kind of, well, you know what they look like, but your mind adjusts the tuning to the frequency. So it's important to understand that distinction and why mind directly affects your body based on the way you're feeling. And our natural way is love, kindness, and generosity. But most of us operate out of reactivity and don't know why and don't understand. And even when you do understand now, because you've been working with me and with Paulette and now with Nick, and we've had some wonderful co-hosts too. Kimberly Lechnick was a co-host at one time. Very wonderful. You see, it is the thoughts that you think the most, how frequently you think them, and how you feel when you think them. That will adjust your cellular vibration into a higher point. And that is where you're open to be objective and notice what you're feeling. So Olu is from Africa. Wonderful, wonderful support. Olu, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your support. And you are the man who's a Sagittarian like me, who can't shut up. Sometimes, right? But we have so much to say, right, Olu? So if you are open to everybody's style, this year my word is patience. And it's no mistake, because one of the things I can't stand is people that don't do things fast enough for me. But I realize that everybody has their own pace, and I can't control that. That's matter. What you're doing, and this feeds into the new book that's out on Let Them. You're really just giving yourself permission repeatedly to let go of your desire to control everybody and what they're thinking. Right. So let me say hello also to Carolyn. Carolyn is wonderful, works with seniors, and she's a woman of integrity. When she screws up, she speaks up. Many of us, maybe 2 or 3 out of 100 that ever do that. So I'm so glad that you're my friend, Carolyn, and get to know each other. There's Adrienne. She is in data entry, lives up in New England, and is a huge supporter. She has been behind me no matter what I'm doing and our efforts here by reposting. And what I learned from Adrienne is that I don't have to do everything. I don't have to repost, comment, share, right? I don't have to do all those things. I can find one thing, one way, one small way that takes seconds to help the people in my network, and that's Adrienne. Watch her. Here's Charles. And with Charles, he lived in Costa Rica. Now he's in the United States. And what he absolutely appreciates is that we have closed captioning, because his hearing isn't pristine. So we're doing everything we can, right, to include everyone. And there is Erin Gibson, who is Nick's assistant accountability partner. And I'll tell you that between Nick and Erin and Paulette, they're my 3. And I have one other person who's not much on LinkedIn who lives close by. That's the core. Now, there's all of you are in levels and layers, and I would do anything for you, and so would Nick. It's just that I feel safe there. And when I was little, just like you, some were abandoned, felt abandoned, not heard, not loved. Um, Maybe we were bullied or we were abused. We didn't know the kind of love we know now. And so for me, it's really hard to find a place where I'm not afraid you're going to leave me. And so right now, I mean, that's happened all my life. Everybody I've loved, right? Except my family, every man, every woman pretty much has left. And so I'm really tenacious about who I can trust, because I don't want to be hurt anymore. I'm done with that, right? I just want to give and love. Oh, I saw that, Carolyn. Yes, yes, yes. Adrienne. Linda is our chef, and she's from Italy, and a delight. Get to know her. She visits a lot of lives, and I've come to really love everything about you, Linda. No kidding. And there's Lisa Fevick, another Sagittarius. Notice how beautiful she is. Sagittarian women are the most beautiful women of all the horoscope signs. Don't argue. Right? We're both impatient, right? And so we're working on patience. Nick, you're laughing. Okay. So you guys are getting the real Leslie. All right. No more. There's no masks here. You're getting the real thing. There's Leanna, always shows up. Oh, by the way, Lisa is a registered dietitian and speaks mostly about menopause and the foods you can eat to diminish the symptoms and people. Menopause and all its friends can last decades. So if you follow what she says, it'll diminish those problems to an effect, but it's also good for everybody else. And there's Leanna. Hi, Leanna. Thank you for being a support here. I see you every time and just so appreciate you. There's Dr. Anjan Banerjee. He's a man. He's one of the few men that I know in this world, on this platform, that when I speak out and other people don't like it, he always stands for me. He always sees my side. He is not triggered by, well, what does she know? Or I don't agree with that. That is not his internal conversation. So I always can count on Dr. Anjan to understand me. He hears, he listens, He's aligned with me. So he's always open to look at it from a different angle. One of my favorites. Oh, and there's Charles again. All right, let me go through. I just want to. Ashif Haji. Ashif lives in Toronto. He's a poet, a prophet. I call him the reincarnated Rumi because no matter what I say, thank you, Ashif, you can do it in 3 notes. Like I can name that tune in 4 notes. He can do it in 3 notes. I can do it in 3 words. He can do it in 2. So you really want to get to know Ashif. Thanks for doing that. You're always making me get down to the common denominator when I read your posts. So I appreciate that. There's Christy D. Williams. She's part of the 2350 network with me and Nick and a whole slew of other people. But outside of that, Christy is another person who reposts, not only for me, but for a lot of people. So if you watch Christy, who is in customer service, she lives in Florida, or Adrian, or any one of us, you'll see that everybody has their own nuance, and this is Christy's. And in fact, she's done that for a very long time. And finally, she made a post, and all of a sudden, there were all these comments. So what I saw her do is over 6-9 months is seed and water her relationships through reposting. So I absolutely love that. All right, now we got lots of different duplicates here. So maybe there aren't as many people as there are comments, but that's okay. Keep going, keep going. Okay, here we go. Oh, look at this. This is my wonderful friend, new grandmother, Melinda Fargas. Before COVID, she and I went on cruises together. She is the travel agent supreme. She's been doing it for over 30 years. Melinda, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about the new baby and being a nana and your mother being a great grandmother. I hope your mom, Linda, is doing well. We shared a room on a cruise. You really get to know someone when you're sitting on the deck with champagne and you have to climb over each other to get to your own bed. And here is 𝓂𝓸𝓾𝓻. Good morning. Thank you so much, sir. I don't get to know you very well yet, but I do see you in the rooms and appreciate you. All right. Well, let's just see what Anjana is slipping in here. Attitude versus aptitude. Oh, thank you so much. We're good. We're good. We're good. At leisure, Ashif says, check out fish philosophy. So that was good. All right, let me see who else here we have. Stanley Green is here. Stanley Green was a guard in basketball. I had to ask him how tall he was because, we don't know how tall people are on this platform. And he and I are connected really through our love of NCAA basketball, college basketball, but also because he has Power Thinking Corp, which every Wednesday morning and evening via Zoom and telephone, he talks about something very similar to what I speak about. They align. His comes from psychology and university development of a program. Mine does not. Yet, we say very much the same things, and I attend once a week. He has a wonderful program, and last Friday he was my guest. On Fridays, I do Think and Grow Rich lessons, and we talked about burning desire. So thank you, Stanley. You all want to get to know Stanley. He's amazing. And here's Dr. Marcia. She's a Christian leadership coach. But what I like about her, it isn't the most important thing. What is more important to Dr. Marcia that I appreciate is that she's interested in various concepts that align with Christianity. So she's open to my ideas, and she can find the place, right, in Christianity where it belongs. And that's what I meant when I said, if you hear something that you've kind of heard before, this is a good thing because you want to be really objective and bring in the articulation and the way people are thinking into your own value system. All right, let's see what she says here. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is a little late, but anyway, is your coffee cold yet? We're almost done here, so let me just get on. There's Gabe Leal. Gosh, I haven't seen you much in a while, Gabe. Gabe is a real go-getter and a new friend. I don't know him, but he recently fell in love, and we got to share that journey. So I just think it's awesome, Gabe. So thank you for being here. And then we have Omar M. That is not his name. Do we really know him? He runs a live show on Sundays at noon, bringing in people with a unique way of getting inside their personal life diplomatically so that we can find out things we didn't know before. And last Sunday, he had on Richard Lowenthal, who is the founder of Go Brunch. And he also runs Zoom Party for adults, which is like Jeopardy. And I came in third place this last time. He sent me $50, and that goes to the Women's Resource Center of Alamance County, one of the nonprofits that I support. All right. I think I probably talked enough, but I just have to make sure. Yeah, that's there it was. He was a guard. Now, forgive me, but I know it was in New England, so I don't remember the team. But I just came across a picture of my children when they were little with Thurl Bailey, who was on the big NCAA national champion team, I think, under Jim Valvano, probably in 1974. Oh gosh, I don't remember. Anyway, all right. And there is Karat. Thank you so much for being here. I haven't seen you in a long time. All right. You all get who you are. Whoops, there's Sandra. Sandra bought Errata, my recent fiction, The Possibility of Errata, my first fiction, and took a picture of it and posted it. So that really meant a lot to me. Those kinds of things. And the people that write a review, if you've read Errata and you bought it on Amazon, it would be great if you would write a quick review. That's it, University of Pennsylvania. So see, and he's an amazing man. All right, so now let us begin with the topic of attitude. And I am going to let Nick open up the topic with any one of those questions. And let me read them again to you, Nick, because I know you've thought about this. But when you heard these words, what does attitude mean to you? What is it? Do we even know what it is? Were you confused if someone said, Nick, change your attitude? I'm sure you never heard that. And how do we act if we're confused? What do we do? What do you think it meant up until today? And if you actually changed your attitude, what did you do? So you're on, my dear. Take several minutes and open up this conversation. Everybody is listening now to her, Nick open the conversation. And if you have the link, now is a good time to come into the studio.
Okay, so unfortunately, you may hear a little hacking in the background. And as Leslie said, stay calm. It's my puppy. Nothing crazy going on outside. So, wow, questions. First, again, I want to say hello to everyone that joined the room. Thank you for being here. Wow, attitude. You said that I probably never heard that. Someone telling me change your attitude. Oh boy. This is the good Nick. There used to be a Nick that was, who the heck do you think you're talking to? There was that Nick. Now, occasionally that Nick comes out, when she's triggered. And usually it's in those moments when I feel I am giving my all. My all. And somebody says something to me, I feel as if they're coming at me. And that's when Nick really, that reactive, bad attitude in your face. But I realize that's a defense mechanism. I am defending myself to the point that I cannot, until a few days later, really think about what was said and the context that it was said in to understand. So I also feel that for me, my attitude could change based on the situation. And so, based on the situation and maybe the people involved, the environment, some people don't know the different attitudes I have. For example, at work, when I was there, it's the pit bull, um, the bull in the china shop. Uh, she's a tough cookie, right? And then on a personal level, my husband will tell you, I am the sweetest. What? Nick's not rough. She doesn't have any rough edges. What are you talking about? She's rough around the edges. So I really do feel this thing that people think we have attitude. Um, I don't feel it's me at the base and my core values and my natural personality, but I totally can have an attitude based on what I feel is coming at me. If I feel you're coming at me and not to me, the first thing that pops up is my attitude. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. I'll hand it back to you, Leslie.
Yeah, really, really great way to start this off. I'm the same way. And based on two things that Nick just said, and that I want you to consider. Hey, Tracy, there's one of the smartest ladies on the internet. She knows something about everything. And she's teaching The Art of War by Sun Tzu, right? I mean, come on. Tracy is absolutely amazing. I'm sure you know her. So go through and make sure you're following everybody. And because the people that come here have been here before. And so they're open. But let me, you brought up two beautiful points for mind over matter. So allow me to share with you that when we become reactive, then when someone is coming at us, to use your words, right, or feeling under attack, that is a trigger, a reaction based on the fear of judgment or criticism. Don't you criticize me. I know I can do this. We've all had this, right? We've all had this. Now, what happens is that it happens repeatedly and it moves from the conscious mind at a certain point into the subconscious where it lives like the truth. Fears are real. Consider that you have faith in your fears. You've proven them. You've lived through them. And when you hear that again, when someone is coming at you, it's your trigger, right? It's your feeling and sensing criticism or judgment, and you stand up for yourself. So that's something to consider. You have 6 basic fears. The biggie is fear of criticism or judgment. I'll show you. That was mine, right? Because I was always criticized. My father was a genius, graduated high school at 15, Cooper Union at 18, worked on Nike Zeus, Polaris anti-missile, and I could never live up to his level of expectation. So, he would chastise me for not being smarter effectively. Well, why didn't you get that? I told you that 3 times. What's wrong with you like that? So that is something you should look for in yourself, right? Somebody did that to you repeatedly, and now you believe it. And so if that vibration, if you sense that vibration, it could be someone like your father or your mother. They might even look. I've had someone be annoyed with me because I reminded this man of his mother-in-law, who he didn't like very much, right? But these are the things you want to be aware of, because each of us are unique and independent. I just love that. And you said something else, and looking for people to come up into the studio now. You have the link. Nick shared it. Copy the link, go into a different tab, make sure you accept camera and microphone access, and then we'll bring you up on the stage. Okay. So I know you have some, and you can either be this way or this way. I just saw Melissa did her room on Saturday with everybody like this. which kind of is the old audio. However, there is this extra step that's required. So I would totally appreciate it. Tracy, you've been up here. Omar M. I would love to have any one of you, Felipe, Aaron, Charles, any one of you to talk about attitude. And I've starred your comment, Charles, to go back and look at it. Okay. So it changes based on your environment, based on the people who you're with. Right. So at work, you have a whole different kind of environment than you do at home with family, than you do when you're out shopping. So you could be triggered anywhere. Is it a bad thing? No, what we're trying to do here is try to catch it and flip it on its ear and use the law of polarity, which is the exact opposite, because the way you got those fears was through repetition, repeatedly being told, Leslie, change your attitude, change your attitude. Yeah, okay, Mom. I didn't even know how to ask, what is it? How do I do it? So it will change. But this work that we do is designed, the matter are your fears and your automatic subconscious reactions. Only one thought occupies your mind in any given moment. You can be intentional. This is where affirmations come in, vision board. You're repeatedly, that's where this new book, Let Them Count, is coming from. Let them, every time you say let them, you're repeating an objective intention to allow people to be themselves. You're giving yourself permission to override the trigger. Very clever use of auto-suggestion or self-suggestion. So that is the work we're doing. All right, I don't see anybody in the studio yet. Let me check the comments. Oh, come on, you guys. In our opinion,
Omar was asking where is the link.
well, I you gave it to him in the direct message. Wasn't the link was in, you sent a direct message to a whole slew of people. It's also in the comments, but I can take care of that right now, but you'll have to talk for a minute. So
Yeah,
while you're doing that, you can tell us what came up for you as I was attempting to distinguish really what's happening, because I don't take action if I'm confused, but boy, if I understand what you're talking about, I'm willing. All right, I'm going to go take care of that right now. Talk.
Oh my goodness. I see a lot of people out there and I want to say hi. I don't want you to think that I'm not seeing you. I know Leslie did a lot of acknowledging earlier. And since I see Naki has joined the room, Naki Nate Wakabumi program. Felipe has joined the room as well. I'm glad that you could pop in, Felipe, everything HR. So, oh boy, phew, 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 phew. I have a really bad time with attitude because I don't have a poker face. So I wear my emotions on my sleeve. And I think that attitude doesn't just come in your language, it comes in your body language. Your aura just gives off that attitude, and definitely your facial expressions. So I can't learn to school mine. I have tried. It is very obvious if I am saying something that is completely contradictory to my facial expression. Chances are you want to go with my facial expression. So, I don't think that I have a bad attitude. I think that, yes, my attitude can be reactive, but I know that I have really grown. And I would say in the past year, for sure, there are instances in my brain or mind where I could recall I knew that I would have reacted a certain way. Like I would have lunged at this person already, where I was able to just take a step back and say, not today. You're not getting to me today. It's not worth it today. You know what? I'm just going to close this email, shut off this voicemail, and pretend I didn't hear this until tomorrow. And that helped me.
That's the action that we want. because we're bombarded with thousands of thoughts. We have decades of experience. There are 6 fears that could be triggered. The one about criticism or judgment. Hey, Omar is in here. Yay, he made it in. Okay, I'll bring him up in just a second. Thank you, Omar. Just hang on a second. I want to give a little bit of the lesson and then we'll bring you in. And Tracy, where are you? Melinda, go ahead and grab the link if you want. Oh, and Felipe, it would be so cool if you would talk to us about attitude. But here's the, hey, Felipe is your HR expert. He's also a business coach. He's a lot of things to a lot of people, mostly a mensch, a real man among men who stands for everybody in the face of adversity. I love Felipe. In fact, I wanted to put him in my movie Errata, but he cut his hair and he has to have long hair for that. So I don't know if I can convince him yet to do that. Okay, here's the deal. Here's the deal about attitude. What I can tell you that you didn't know before. And for me, if I'm confused, I don't take action. And one of the universal truths is out of confusion comes order. If you sit with it long enough and you work through it and think about it, listen to other people, and you'll get that little light bulb moment. Oh, now I get it. It took about 3 people to teach me a math concept. Unfortunately, first it was the teacher, algebra, I remember, or geometry. My father was the second one. And of course, I didn't get it by the second one. And then my girlfriend who lived next door explained it. And I went, oh, I get it now. So sometimes it takes several, as we grow in awareness, we have to hear it from different people in different ways when we're at a different level of awareness. That's the beauty and magic of continuous learning. You never ever arrive. You're always aspiring to do what Nick just explained, right? Oh, I see what's happening here. Okay, this is when I'm going to shut up and watch what happens. Okay, so here's the thing about attitude. Attitude is 3 things. So it would be like giving someone a cake and I said, thank you so much, really good flour. It's the combination. So attitude is 3 things. What you're thinking the most frequently and how it makes you feel. That's what you think about the most. The way you're feeling when you think about it, feeling really good and uplifted or crappy, right? So the crappy comes from your triggers, and that's not feeling, that's emotion, and that's not thinking. So attitude is what you've been thinking about the most, how frequently you've thought about it, and how you feel, how it makes you feel, and then you take action in that low vibration. That is attitude. So the way that we can distinguish this, if someone says to you, I now know, Leslie, change your attitude, I go to what I'm thinking. It's the only thing we can control anyway. What we think, how often we think it, and the way we feel when we think it. When we are in love and light and a high vibration, our attitude is good. There's a spring in our step. Someone says change your attitude, you have a very low vibration. You can bet that you're thinking something negative, whatever it is. It doesn't make you feel good. So now that you see that if anybody says to you, change your attitude, even if they don't know what it is, you do. And you can do it because all you have to do is shift what you're thinking. Oh, that's right. I've been thinking about this guy. Reminds me of my Uncle Joe, who always came to the Christmas parties drunk as a skunk and called everybody out, right? And so I'm totally triggered because this guy reminds me of Uncle Joe. And Leslie, what's wrong with you? Your attitude, it's changed. And then I can go, oh God, okay. That's, I know what I've been thinking about. So then I'll just think about another person. It's agile thinking. It's your ability to stop and shift, take a pause. But you're bombarded. We all are so frequently. It's not easy to do. You kind of have to catch it as catch can, like Nick was talking about. All right. So that is what I wanted to share with you about attitude, the three components. It all begins with what you're thinking the most, the way you're feeling, because remember, what you're thinking, that vibration affects every cell in your body. If you want to know more about that, Bruce Lipton wrote Biology of Belief. James Brodie wrote Virus of the Mind. These two scientists tracked the protein in our cells when we were in a high vibration and found out they were all moving in the same direction. And when we were at a low vibration, the proteins moved in another direction and all the amplitude of vibration lowered. You can make yourself sick being afraid of being sick. That's the third fear. And fear of illness is real. We've all been through COVID. So don't let anybody tell you that fear isn't real. It's our arch enemy. Right? And you don't think that the universe and God made it all real simple for us. No, we are the only living beings that have conscious awareness and take an idea and do what we're talking about. So, Nick, we're going to bring up two beautiful men. But before we do, what are your thoughts about my distinguishing it in those simple terms? What you think, how you feeling about it, and the actions you take when you're feeling that way?
I have to agree with you the way you broke it down. I don't think I necessarily really thought about it that way, but just in sharing the way I would react, of course, there are things preceding that. It almost made me think to myself in a situation that happened recently, but the outcome wasn't that great. What about if I stopped and thought for a minute, what attitude is that person coming at me with, and why are they coming at me with that attitude? Is there a problem behind it that needs to be solved? So should I be thinking that it might be a problem I know, and that's why they're coming at me about it, but it's my own fears that's causing me to take it as they're coming at me, when they might be coming to me, they just don't know how to handle the delivery, so it doesn't seem that way. That's what came to me.
Yeah, that is heart-centered thinking. So that's what you're able to do once you can shut down your own fears. Now, we do look for the things we don't like about ourselves in others, right? So this is a very powerful distinction here, that when you realize that we're a reflection of one another, and the very things, well, I was telling Olu, well, I was mentioning Olu. So the thing that irritates me the most is people that go on and on and on. And I have worked very hard to stop that, because I just feel like I have so much to say and you just should be listening to all of it. So, right. And Olu's the same way. And we are smart, but we can trigger other people. Right. So patience is my thing. So what you're talking about here is the ability to get up above. This is what coaches do. They are completely objective, and they're practiced in shutting down their own fears, because they got them too. And they're listening. They're actually stepping into your world. They're your biggest proponent. If they're properly trained or experienced, then they will not influence you with their point of view. They will simply ask questions, and that's exactly what you're talking about. That's being heart-centered. So that was a beautiful share. Welcome, Omar and Felipe. Omar, what's coming up for you? Unmute yourself. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I want to bring this up. Oh, Felipe, there you are too. So glad you're here. Let me just see what our dear Fear is real, is how we experience it, but can also be absolutely. Yes. And that is, Sandra, that's exactly what we're talking about here, is that we have the ability to outweigh our fear, but it takes practice, because fear always wins until you become an agile thinker. And this is what Nick is talking about. This is the work that I do. You never reach it. It's an aspiration. All right, Omar, you're on. This is the second time you've been on my stage. Our
Good
stage.
morning, everybody. How you guys doing today? Welcome. Always happy
So,
to be with you guys, and it's a wonderful Monday morning here, right? 8:50, and it's a good topic, attitude. We don't really talk about it as often. We need to talk about attitude, and attitude is important because how we treat one another, or how we get that vibe from somebody at a store, or a customer, or a client that you're dealing with. How are you gonna deal with their attitude, right? If the person is angry towards you, are you going to be angry back? So that's something we deal with all the time, right? And that's something that, I mean, I think we all struggle with it. Yeah, time to time. Somebody pushes you, pushes you, pushes you. Are you going to get angry, or are you going to get quiet about it? For me, if something I'm really passionate about, that's what will trigger my anger or my attitude in terms of anger. But it's something I'm not too passionate about, and I'm learning as I get older. I just turned 40, so in that case,
me
you
too.
don't worry too much about things as much. That's what I feel.
And let me just say one thing about you, Omar. So Omar has had to tangle with me. And I'm sure I pissed him off more than once during the Zoom party, and he never reacted. So what I can tell you is that that really takes something, right?
Yeah,
Really takes it.
I
When
laugh it off. I laugh it off. Like
I know
it's
you do,
you
you
know
do.
I do. Yeah,
But that's the action,
yeah,
and laughter raises your vibration. So for however this happened for you, Omar, you're already doing it, which allows you to keep your vibration high. I can't drag you down. The more or impatient I get, the more you laugh.
yeah.
Right? It shuts me down. So it's really quite fun. What do you think, Nick? Anything you want to say, or anything else, Omar, about this?
I was
Because
gonna say it added good for the bloopers on the show. It was amazing, especially when you said that you need to write better questions and stuff like that. But yeah. I mean, if you guys can comment in terms of attitude, it would be good in terms of how we can deal with it and stuff like that. That would be great. Go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead. Give me the
and
writer.
how you deal with it, and how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Nick, before we go on to Felipe, would you like to respond to Omar, or you want to? We can continue, whatever you like, my dear.
I just have to say this conversation is cracking me up because it's bringing back so many situations. Because seriously, Nick, when I say I could be bipolar, I could really be bipolar. And if you keep laughing because I'm upset, I will get even angrier and angrier and angrier because you are laughing at. I feel you're laughing at me now. So that's my reaction. Let the HR guy tell us how getting light out of work is not a good idea.
Yeah, that's the fear of criticism, right? When you get angry and angry. So Felipe, how are you? Thank you so much, Omar. That was a great share. You don't leave, because you may have something else to say. Felipe, what's on your mind about this interesting conversation that we dug up today?
I'm loving this conversation, and I only have 6 minutes because I do have an 11 o'clock I have to jump on, so I'm not going to be rude and jump off quickly. I just have an appointment. But, first of all, Nick, when you said that about someone laughing makes you angry, I think everyone has different responses, because I will say that my wonderful 92-year-old mother, all my life, when I've gotten angry about something, not at her, if I'm angry about something else, she just starts smiling. I'm like, stop smiling. And she just keeps smiling at me. And all of a sudden I'm like, and I start smiling. I'm like, I'm angry. Stop smiling. I don't want to smile. And she has this ability just to not say a word. And so I think that there are people in our lives that can influence us and help us come down from that negative feeling or attitude. And we have to remember when they're not around, what are they doing to help us? And we need to remember that and do it for ourselves. Now, I will say, as y'all talked about attitude, I think attitude always has, not always, it usually has a negative connotation to it. All right. But attitude is just what our attitude is. Our attitude could be a positive attitude. And so as people think about attitudes, I want to remind people, because I wrote a post on Saturday about people who are struggling about finding jobs and the uncertainty of their skills. And that's an attitude that you have about you. You're having a negative attitude about your inability to do something. And I just wanted to remind people that you have so much more to offer than sometimes you realize. You forget all the life and work experiences you've gained. Let that help drive your attitude. Remember that, we all go through hard moments, and those hard moments help develop us and make us stronger. But we have to actually work at it. And it's one of those things where when it gets overwhelming, sometimes you need that other person, but other times you just need to, in the moment, if you can capture yourself saying, I don't like the way I'm reacting, just shut up. Just shut up and listen. And that helped me last night. I wanted to react to something that someone said that was definitely like accusatory, and instead I just shut up. I let them talk, and at the end I was able to communicate my concerns so much more calmly, because I don't know about you other Latinos out there, but the Latino boiling blood thing is a real thing. And when it starts boiling up, boy, it is not, Latino blood does not like to simmer. It's either boiled or not. There's no in between. Okay. So for us to be able to control that, it takes effort. So I'm just letting everyone know it takes work. And I'll just end with this, because this is something that I always share with people. And when they're having that negative attitude or that self-confidence or that doubt in themselves, it's this mantra that I started saying to myself that really does help. And it's basically saying, be confident in what you know, be curious about what you don't know, be grateful for what you have, be compassionate to yourself, and be tenacious as hell, because you got this. And when we can focus, the attitude tends to slowly calm down a little bit. I know that when I had this negative attitude about all this work that I have to do, when I write down a to-do list and see what I need to do and prioritize it, all of a sudden I feel like, all right, I got this. I'm under control. It's not negative, and my attitude's not negative anymore. It's more of a positive attitude. Like, okay, I'm almost a little excited about to start doing this, because I know it's not as bad as I thought. And so it really is a mindset. Everything you all have shared has been so amazingly helpful. I just want to make sure that everyone remembers that there's other types of attitudes that can creep in, and sometimes we call those attitudes anxiety or depression or frustration, but sometimes it's just the attitude that you have at the moment.
Yes. Thank you so much, Felipe. Always wonderful share. And I think you're really speaking into the conversation beautifully. Both of you have. Nick, anything you'd like to share? I know Felipe has got a couple of minutes, only a minute or two, and then he's got to be live somewhere else. But everything you've said, both of you, is really aligned and high value. So, Nick, how about you? Anything you'd like to share, my friend?
I think both different viewpoints, but so relevant to the conversation. Like when I say that I used to get mad when people laughed at me, it's funny because that growth is there, and my husband is seeing it, because that Latino blood, because mi esposo es de Mexico, Mexican. So, he's that person that he would open up the mail and he got a ticket because he ran a red light or something. He would be pissed for a week. And now he says to me, you have changed so much. You are already easygoing, but now you just laugh at things. You're like, and I'm like, yeah, because I realize that that's a really good way for me to deal with it, because I have to deal with it. I have no choice, right? So I'm like, why have a stink attitude about it? There are other things that have pissed me off anyway.
Well, and it's the practice You
Yeah, but
see,
he's mad only for a day now instead of a week.
well, then
Yay!
it's
So it's
right.
getting better because of I changed my attitude.
Yes.
His attitude is slowly
Yes.
changing. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, absolutely. It's the practice that Felipe, the result is, go ahead, Felipe, are you leaving? Are you waving goodbye?
Yeah. I have to get going. So I'll catch the rest of the replay, but thank you all for doing this. It's a great conversation. And I love the tips that you're sharing. So I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Thank
Bye.
you. See ya. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else like to come up on stage? Omar, what's your take on
Yeah.
this?
I wanted to comment on what Felipe was saying in terms of his
Please.
wife was smiling, right? Because imagine if she's angry or he's angry, they're both angry at the same time, that quarrel will go longer, right? So it's always good. And then it reminds me of a story of an old story of some scholars who the husband and wife lasted for like 80 years together, or 70 or something like that. And they said, we never saw you guys ever argue with each other at all. He said, why? When I'm angry, my wife is calm. When she's angry, I'm calm. And so that kept them together for a long time. And so I'm cool, I'm ice and she's fire kind of thing. And so that's something that reminded me of that. So and for me, when I was younger, high school, college, I used to have more of a anger attitude. And then I think prayer and all that, as I got older, I realized it's not worth it to get angry at these stupid things, and so it calmed me down a bit. And so now I'm more like, okay, it happens. So what? So
Fantastic. Absolutely. And I absolutely just love. Now, notice that all of us, while all of us have been in this situation, we've caught ourselves being triggered. And then now that we have some more information to be a little clearer on what causes us to have an attitude, well, it's the trigger, right? It's something from fear that we've experienced. And, it could sound like you're not smart enough. Well, if you go into that store without a mask, you might get sick. Well, if you have a relationship with someone, they could break up with you. That's the loss of love. Then another fear is getting old. I had it when I was younger. Now that I'm old, I don't have it anymore. Right? So you will not worry about getting old once you get old. That's the benefit of making it. And then there's the fear of death. So we've got humiliation, judgment, and criticism. That's why people don't want to speak publicly. It is the top fear because we've screwed up and we've been humiliated, usually as children, and in tears in front of the class. And internally, we protected ourselves and said, well, I'm never getting up in front of an audience again because I don't like this feeling. So you have adults, when they're asked to speak on a stage, they get nauseous and don't understand why. Because that fear has a reaction and an emotion, and it brings you back to that age. So you're feeling it. All the vibrations drop. And you can also use memory like this to raise your vibration. For example, there's a scientific, there's a program called Heart Math and the Heart Math Institute. So they measure the vibration, your cellular vibration, the amplitude of vibration based on what you're thinking. So you can also resurrect a wonderful memory. In fact, that's how I wrote Errata, right? Because it started 25 years ago when I was madly in love and I wrote the outline. Well, I waited 20 years to write it, 22, 23 years, because I wasn't prepared to write it, right? I wasn't ready. I used it as a distraction, let's say, back then. So once I got ready to write it, I had to resurrect that old love of 25 years before. So I just sat and remembered. Because when you're in love, if you close your eyes and you think about, I remember smelling the skin of his shoulder, right? Just like the back of a baby's neck. So you remember all these sensorizing things, what it felt like, what it smelled like, what it tasted like, what it looked like, and how it sounded. So when you five sensorize a memory, you're catapulting your amplitude of vibration to a very high one. Why would you want to do that? Well, because the universe responds and hands you anything that matches your vibration. So if you go through life, I can't get the job, there aren't any jobs, there's all these things that are going wrong, and no job comes, well, you're the source. But to Felipe's point, this is the reframe that several of you have mentioned, that you can actually reframe it by reminding yourself, I'm really good at what I do. As I leave this place, I can't serve there anymore. They don't appreciate my talents. I'm going to be open to people that want my talents, that appreciate who I am. I'm really good at what I do. The question is how quickly can you catch yourself and do that? And will you do it repeatedly? Will you do what Felipe said, which is to remind yourself? Because based on the law of polarity, there's goodness and not such goodness in all of us. Fear has us focus on that, but that's not thinking. This, what Felipe said and what we're talking about, is thinking. This is thinking. Reacting is not thinking. So we don't have anybody else in the studio. Nick, Omar, I see that you unmuted yourself. Thank you very much.
I am muted myself to say that I gotta get off for a bit and go to work. But good conversation. It's
Thank
the
you.
best talk show on LinkedIn on the Monday morning. So thank you so much. I'll join you back. And Nick, you're doing a great job as the co-host here. So maybe you can hire her full time. No.
Oh, I
Okay.
am. Of course. And
Okay.
she's hired me full time. So there we go. Thank
Awesome.
you,
Awesome.
Omar.
See
Thank
you later.
Omar.
Bye. See you next time.
Omar is a technical trainer and he lives up in Arizona, and he's sneaking away because he's teaching. So a lot of people sneak away. So Nick, what's coming up for you? And let me look for some good questions in here. I'm going to give you the floor as I look through our beautiful comments. Oh, do let me say hello to Platine. Wonderful, wonderful human being. Hi, Platine. Growing by leaps and bounds as a speaker. Actually listening to Platine when we first met in the audio rooms, he taught me how to listen to different languages. And Platine spoke very slowly, really exercised my patience, right? But at the same time, listening to different vernaculars of different languages, people speaking English with different accents, you don't get it right away. You have to listen to them frequently so that your ear and your listening adjusts. And that's one of the things that Platine taught me. So thank you. And you also taught me to be patient. So Nick, what do you say? Where are we on this conversation? What's coming up for you? We had a lot of questions, and I will be looking at the comments. Please, my friend.
I have to piggyback off what you just said about Platine. So it is very natural for people in the Caribbean to speak very quickly. I speak very fast. And
Really?
and I don't think I have an accent anymore. But most people detect an accent on me, even if it's not the strong Trinidadian accent I once had. So even Leslie tells me, slow down. And, no, I don't take that a bad way, because even working, I have to learn to slow down. I'm on the phone with customers. But it's funny because yesterday, Aaron and I were talking, and and then I stop and I say, do I need to slow down? Are you understanding me? And just what you said, Aaron said, sis, been going on 3 years, we know each other. I understand everything you're saying, but you're right. The longer you speak with someone, the more your ear gets attuned. But I have seen some great comments from Sandra, from Linda.
Yeah, let's bring this one up here. This is really good. Excuse me for interrupting. But it's true. It's true. And I'm pretty good at with you too, right? When you're at warp speed, but I've been listening to you for a while, right? And so it really does a disservice to all of our community all over the world that we don't do this. In fact, I got to tell you, I joined a clubhouse room, and I'm not a clubhouse person, but it was learning to speak English because I wanted to hear these people talk from around the world and articulate in the English language so that I could better understand them when I run into them into lives, etc. And it works. It absolutely works. It works. Oh, here, let's see what Sandra has to say here. The speed we can reframe a thought really depends on the individual and their level of practice, the technique. Some people report being able to shift their perspective in a matter of seconds. Yes, and that is absolutely the case. That's exactly what we're talking about. How quickly can you do it when you recognize it? And the practice is, this is the thing, we want everything overnight. But these fears and automatic reactions that dominate our mind primarily have been practiced for decades. You've been telling yourself you're unworthy based on what you heard when you were 6, 7, or 8, and you're still reacting to it. So when we're young like that, I get it, right? It's a survivor thing. Totally get it. But when you're 50, 60, 70, even 30, if you're still that little child, right, who reacts, would you speak on our stage? Right, immediately comes back when you were 7 years old in second grade and everybody laughed at you and you said, I'm not ever doing this again. That comes right back in. It drops the vibration of the cells and you feel lousy. So that's what she's saying here. This is practice. That is what Felipe pointed out. This is what Sandra is pointing out. And the idea is to diminish the number of triggers or reactions we have, right? Like what's happening with Nick, right? Her husband's even noticing she doesn't do it like she used to do it before. You don't have to. Through practice, you've just become more objective. And by the way, about the bipolar thing, I honestly believe we all are. We're all on the same spectrum. It's just that some people are a little more extreme than other people. They're a little more reactive. Some people might need medication. But we're all there. We're all there. We've all been triggered. We've all been angry. We've all been uncontrollable. It's just how extreme it is and how frequent it comes. So yes, Sandra, that is absolutely true. Beautifully said. Nick, did you want to respond to that, my dear?
No, I agree as well. And I see a lot of, like I said, great comments.
Yeah. I'm looking for the longer ones. And that doesn't mean that I don't love your small ones either. It doesn't matter. I mean, I love them all. So with practice and intention, we learn to pause, reflect, and then reply. Exactly right. I got to say it's not easy, but it's so much better than saying something. Yes. But, you have the control of intention, which is conscious thought. The problem is we get caught off guard. Somebody says something, we get triggered and we're just upset right away. But remember, attitude, you can control your attitude by understanding that if your attitude is off, or you notice it's off, or someone says it's off, just go directly to what you've been thinking the most. Because that's what's driving your cellular vibration and the way you feel. And you will discover that you were the victim of one of these fears that you ought to be at some point, but now we must outweigh it. Now, how do we do that? Practice. Continue to do it. It becomes a habit. Pretty soon, you don't even think about it. You have perfect faith in it. So this is a gorgeous. Let me just see what else we have here. I want to look. I think Charles had one that okay, this is interesting. If you have money, you often can have bad attitude or even bad behavior and largely get away with it. Look at Andrew Tate. He still has women wanting to be around him. Oh, boy, that's kind of jazzy. What do you think, Nick? Whoa, Charles, you always like to mix it up. We can argue with this all day and all night. You have people also that have money that have a good attitude, right? And good behavior and go to jail. So I guess the question is, Nick, what are we looking for? Are we looking for the things that upset us and trigger us as proof? Because what it says here is true for him. But the law of polarity and all the universal laws say the opposite is also available to think, right? So if you continue to look for this is your belief. You have perfect faith in this, Charles. I totally get it. And thank you for this observation. This is what you believe based on your experience. I'm just here to tell you that you will also find the opposite if you look for it. Nick, your thoughts?
I do agree with Charles, but I also think that people that live in poverty have an attitude. I think we all have an attitude based off of where we come from. So, for example, I was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago. This is a third world country. I went to school with girls who had air-conditioned houses. My house wasn't air-conditioned. And I went to school with girls whose entire family lived in one room. So, yes, even just that affected their attitudes. But somebody born in poverty but raised in an environment of self-worth versus somebody that was raised with money but was constantly made to believe they were worth nothing. Attitudes vary so much, and I think it has a lot to do with how we were raised, our environment, our experiences. Money does play a factor, but I think that it depends on if you are growing up in an entitled, money around you type of environment versus somebody that is raised with money, for example, but they are taught that an attitude of generosity, of caring for others, of sharing. And I just want to throw this in there really quick. This conversation made me think of my son. My son is 27. So from, I want to say maybe 13, no, maybe 15 to about early 20s, my family always felt there was an attitude of laziness, lackadaisical, no motivation. But now his attitude has completely changed. And I feel that part of that is youth, lack of experience, lack of motivation, lack of direction. Yes, to some extent, my divorce, not having a strong male role model, in his life. Um, you know, this all affected his self-esteem and that need for validation. So what I'm seeing now is that as he's gone to work and he's earning his paycheck and he's doing better and his self-esteem is growing. And with it, he doesn't need outside validation as much. So that attitude that people said that he had this attitude, that attitude has completely changed. Now, I don't believe the attitude he had originally was intentional.
Oh.
It was circumstantial.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way to look at it, that there is nothing wrong. And Charles goes, there's nothing wrong with the way you're looking at something. It's the power and the ability as a human being to choose a different thought that makes you feel good. I mean, that's really, really what it's about. And so that's why you hear reframe, et cetera, you hear practice, you hear conscious and subconscious. Just know that you have more power and influence through what you're thinking than anything else. It's the only thing we can control is what we think. Now, look, now we're in a place to influence others. So you're influencing your son, your husband's noticing you you're always a leader. So as you grow and you learn to think more strategically and consciously and less reactively, just always working toward to aspire to be that as much as you can, those intellectual muscles begin to grow. Now, remember, the muscles of fear and triggering are already strong. They're bodybuilders, they're award winning weightlifters. They've stopped you from every dream that you've failed at and the ones that you'd like to do, but you have no clue how because you're afraid. The challenge is to do the thing afraid, complete it, then you've, for the first time, begun to disprove that old fear. But once isn't enough. And it happens all the time. So this is, this is a really beautiful example. So what we've done is we've done a little bit more clarity on, what attitude is, what causes people to have an attitude, that we all have it, that primarily it is a fluctuation of mindset depending on the amplitude of your cellular vibration, which is fed by what you're thinking, how frequently you're thinking about it, and how you're feeling. So there can be now a clear picture. Okay, I got triggered. Somebody, as Nick said in the beginning here, somebody came at her. I know that feeling, right? So somebody came at her. Well, that is the trigger from that is you've been got at before and you don't like that feeling and you're not having any bit of it, right? And that is the trigger. But the agile thinking way is to realize it. Could you in that moment and just wait a minute, take a breath and, okay, so obviously this is pissing me off. What is the opposite? Why am I pissed off? Which you brought up, Nick. But what is the opposite? So when this happens, you can remind yourself and use the Mel Robbins thing. Let them say whatever they want. It has no effect on me. Let them say it. I give them permission. I dub them, right, as Queen of Errata, that they can say any stupid thing that they want and it's not bothering me. That's effectively what you're doing. And when you do that over and over and over again, now you're disproving that fear, right? You're actually outweighing it by standing in the face of the adversity of the precedents that we've set, which are primarily negative. All right, so let's look at one more thing. We're just about at the end of the hour, so I want to look at this. This is Deb, one of the peeps who was bummed about the audio rooms being sunsetted, but I have to say, seeing all your shining faces is pretty enrolling. Thank you, Deb. Deb and I have done the same landmark education work, leadership work, and transformational work. So when we talk, we have certain words that nobody else knows. It's like landmark ease, right? We both smile with each other about that. Yeah, it took, what is this? This is the 9th week. At the 7th week, we were able to, Paulette and I figured out with the transition, how to engage this room, not doing audio, how to get people to come up on stage. So please know that when you come up on stage, it means the world to us. I get that it's a pain. I get that you've got to go to a different browser. I get that your machine may not be cached and the camera won't work. I get all those technical things. But what I feel about today is that this was one of the most beautiful conversations that I've been privileged to be part of with you, our friends, and our connections. And my intention is that you walk away with some inspiration about the way we think, and that I know that your vibration is high right now because we've been doing high vibrational things. So as we close out, Nick, I'd like to hand the floor to you for your final remarks for today and gratitude to everyone for being here. Please, Nick.
I truly enjoyed the conversation as well. Sitting here, listening and seeing the comments, it actually allowed me to reflect on some experiences, recent and old, and I see them with a different perspective now, just because of what I'm getting out of this. Part of me is realizing that a recent situation that I thought I may have been wrong for flying off the handle, I wasn't wrong. Perhaps the way I handled it wasn't the best way. So I'll leave you with this somewhat odd consideration. It crossed my mind that I had been triggered so many times and the response had been the same. I'm speaking about the same individual. And then so many times after, and my response had been calm. I just laughed at it. My attitude changed towards it. And it was very evident too. Because it was mentioned. You no longer get uptight about it. You realize where I'm coming from. This is just my personality. And I started laughing about it. And I started taking the humorous side and I started jabbing back the same way I was jabbed at. So that now opened a whole different scope of things, if you would. At first, the jabbing was returned. Then I could see the attitude switching to the attitude that I had before, which is, I'm not really sure how to take you right now. Incidentally, in the end, I walked away from this person, but I think I walked away knowing that after all this time, the same way I had to learn to respect that was that person's personality, and that's the attitude that they came at people with, not just me. My core values and who I am was more important. I didn't want to be spoken to or treated that way anymore. And it being your personality wasn't enough for me. It wasn't enough for me to know or accept that was your personality, because this person is this mirror image of me. Mirror image. And I know the things disliked in me or criticized in me are exactly the things that I dislike and criticize in that person. And I realized the more the attitude was given to me, the more I gave it back. And then it was too much clutter in my head. So I'm glad that in this particular case, it taught me when enough was enough and it was time to walk away. I had already learned the lesson that I knew how to adjust my attitude if I so desired. I'll end there.
Thank you. And what is so beautiful is your vulnerability and sharing, and the realization that once you let go of that trigger, if you will, or that particular part of, let's say, the relationship, once you did that, guess what won out? Your values. But when you're triggered and when you're angry and upset and you have a negative attitude, your values are outside playing. That you can't have values and fear at the same time. So this is a really beautiful example through how you've articulated this, Nick, what is available. This is another way to look at what happens when you are aware of your thoughts and your attitude now, which is that is the source. It's what you're thinking is the source of attitude. So our work then is to catch this as much as you can. This was a beautiful share. And I want to share this from Kurat, and then we'll close out. Nick, that was just beautiful. Triggered, I simply leave the place for a few seconds and come back later, or I try to keep a better eye contact that offers space for both reframing. Excellent. And Kurat, you can leave that space mentally instead of physically. I'm not sure what you meant. Nick, this is what you described are the realizations as you're growing in awareness of your infinite potential. You seem to climb higher on the mountain of finally getting to oneness with all there is. I think we all begin with oneness. And then if you look at a mountain through our life, we come down to sea level. And then we begin our journey back up to oneness, which is emotional intelligence and conscious awareness. But everybody starts at a different place. And as you escalate and climb this mountain, there are lookouts and vistas. And you stop for a rest and turn around and look down. And here's a whole bunch of other people now getting, oh, I'm ready, I'm willing, I want to learn something. And they start to climb the mountain. And then you go higher. You're at a higher vista and you look down. And what you see is that everybody is ultimately moving back to oneness with the universe. Some people, unfortunately, and that will not be you, they don't get this until they're on their deathbed. But they get it. They totally get it. You know, no one will go home to our universe, whatever that means, without getting this experience. So if we start now climbing the mountain, we're all on it at some point. This points to what Nick is saying is that they get to be who they are. We get to let them. Because no two of us are at the same point, where each one of us are making our own climb. And the way we learn is by allowing other people to do the same thing. Okay, so she's taking care of that puppy. I know that was a coughing. There he is. There he is. He stopped coughing. I love that. I love that. Okay, so we are a little bit over at 11:30. I hope everybody has enjoyed this because I certainly have. Please come back next week. We'll have something else. And do know that what we've been doing since November is really developing our character. Being able to honor your virtues and your values is how you grow your character. But first, one must recognize what debilitates our character, and that is that low vibration, the trigger, and the fear. It happens to all of us. You just do it one baby step at a time. So you have to be patient. So thank you, everyone, for being here. You know how much I appreciate you. Oh, gosh, hang on a second. Nick, unmute and tell us what you've got coming up this week that people, oh, okay, he's not been doing well. Okay, so let me tell you. Oh, let me think. Okay, so Nick, this coming weekend will have a Sunday audio room, I believe, at 9:30. Which she is back to doing this bi-monthly. And for me, you all know, many of you know that the audiobook is in publication, and I'm waiting any day to hear from Amazon that you can purchase the audiobook. Lots of exciting thing happening. We'll do this next Monday. And on Friday, I will teach for 45 minutes at 10 a.m. Eastern, Think and Grow Rich, the principles of success, universal law, and the stories behind this #2 bestseller of all times. So with that, everybody, you may leave at any time. I'm going to sing you out as I sang you in. We love you and we appreciate you. And we'll be here on the boards to speak with you anytime. So here we go. Have a great week, everybody. This is the last week of February. Holy smokes. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Nick, you too. Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong. Wait and see. Someday we'll find it. The rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and you. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on a morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do you think we might see? Someday we'll all find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and you and me. We know it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep? And have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Do better, you can do it. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. Or to write that book. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that we're supposed to do and be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La-dee-da-dee, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-dee-da-dee. All right, everybody. Have a great week ending the stream. Much love.